Today I picked up some pallets to stack and dry my wood on. So I have plenty of room back here along my fence line to stack some wood. Now it is in the shade a little bit and it might get some partial sun, but I'm going to stack my wood here and get it out of the way and just dry it for a couple years, and as I need it I can pull it out. Now the only thing is I'm waiting on wood chip mulch from the tree service, and I want to put a bunch of wood chips back here, and it's going to be like 11 cubic yards, so it's going to be a ton of wood chips. And I don't want to go ahead and stack everything up here and then the wood chips get delivered. And just the way that this tree service operates, you never know when they're going to be ready to come dump a load and they're going to be in my area. So it's just kind of a hurry up and wait situation, or whatever you want to call it, because one day they're just going to call and say I'm on my way, and they're going to dump 11 cubic yards of wood chips in my driveway. And it's going to be a lot of work to move all that because I won't be able to get my cars out of the garage or anything. But all of those wood chips will help me to kind of level out these pallets, and I can set them up on there. And I mean, I'm going to need a bunch of space to get rid of the wood chips anyway, so I want to put the pallets and the wood on top of the wood chips, and instead of doing it the other way around and stacking on my wood and then throwing wood chips around it. But like I said, the wood chips can also help me grade and level the ground and get the pallets to lay flat. So I'm just going to kind of have to make do until I hear from the tree service. Hopefully I hear from those guys soon and they take care of me on that mulch and a load of wood, because I don't know, they don't like it when you're picky, and I know that. I mean, they're a tree service and they just want to dump the stuff, but hopefully they call soon. But look what I found up here in my wood pile. We have a snake who's living here, and I'm just going to leave him alone, and hopefully he doesn't have babies, or she, because they will be all over the place and you'll have snakes all in your wood pile. But that snake could be helping with eating mice or anything, and so it could be just kind of beneficial, and I don't really want to hurt it. I'm just going to leave it alone. I was going to pick it up and hold it and maybe try to relocate it, but it kind of ran away and I was using the camera and everything, so I just couldn't get to it. But it squirmed down in there into the wood pile where I couldn't get my hands on it. And it's no big deal. It's just a garter snake or a garden snake, or however you say it. It's not poisonous, it won't hurt you, and it'll help get rid of mice and stuff. I have a little stack of pavers right there that I'm not using, so I figured I'll also use these to help me level the pallets, and especially while I'm waiting on my tree service mulch to come, I can use these and just kind of get them ready and get everything staged. So I may be able to use the mulch to grade the land in addition to throwing some pavers underneath the pallets to kind of support them and get them sitting a little bit more level to where my wood pile won't fall over, hopefully. Next, I had a couple broken boards on these pallets, and if you've ever dealt with pallets, you know how that goes. They're kind of hard to get to stay together. And I should have pre-drilled holes before I hammered nails in it or anything, because that board right there is just splitting into pieces every time you hammer a nail into it or anything. But I mean, I tried to kind of get it to tack back down a little bit and hold together for a while, and we'll just see how long it lasts. I don't know whether I need 2 pavers or 3 pavers under that pallet to get it level. I might bring my level out and see. Looks like 3 might be a little bit high, but that wouldn't necessarily hurt if it was kind of leaning inwards uphill a little bit maybe. But anyways, that's kind of staged and ready, and if I get some mulch under it, that'll help, and I can put a level on it and we'll just see what it looks like. But what I may do is just, as I split wood and it's piling up on my back patio, I might just throw it back there in a big pile or a cone or whatever. I mean, big is relative, you know, but just everything I have, just throw it back there in a pile and don't take the time to stack it or anything, because as soon as I get wood chip mulch, I'm going to have to tear it all down and move it all again. And, you know, you don't really want to do that. So I might just throw it back, and I could even maybe put it on the other side of my fence. I don't really want to do that, but I could put it in the woods and put a pallet back there and just throw it all on a pallet until I hear from these guys. So we'll see. But now, as you can see, that stump was just barely in the way, and it was just kind of propping the corner of that pallet up. And just with having one corner lifted up off of the ground, it was just kind of causing it to sit all uneven, and I don't really like it. I want it to sit nice and flat on the ground. So I'm just digging this stump out, and that stump has been there for like 20 years, and it's still pretty solid. But I mean, I'm able to pull these chunks out of it here and get my pallet to lay flat. So I got that done, and that thing lays flat now, and you can kind of see what that looks like. Now this whole area is kind of on a bit of a hill, and the wood chip mulch will help to grade all of this. I mean, I can just kind of grade it to get these things to lay flat, and you can see what that area looks like. I can put pallets and wood all along that whole back hill and that back fence, and I can fit many cords, several cords back there. But here's a look at these little berries that I have, and throughout the summer they come up all in my lawn, and there's quite a few of them, but they're just kind of starting to pop out. I'm not real sure exactly what they are, some kind of wild berry, but the animals like them and the bunnies like them, and they're kind of neat looking, so I leave them alone and I'll end up having more of them. But here's a few other pretty flowers that are in my backyard, nice purple flowers, and I have this rose bush that just is barely hanging on. I mean, it just keeps coming back like that every year, and it doesn't really get full sun or anything, but every year I get like 1 or 2 roses out of it. So I might fertilize it and try to read about how to trim them up this year, but it's been coming back like that for like 15 years or longer, and that's just a nice pretty rose. So hopefully it'll make more of them throughout the summer. Last year it only made 1 flower, and it was there like all through the summer. But I might need to like cut them back or trim them to get them to bush. And here I thought this was pretty neat. I might be wrong about this, but that looks like a tomato plant to me. It really does. And if you look underneath it, there's a dead mouse or something. I think it's a mouse. And I did not plant that there. I just noticed it in my backyard. So I don't know if that mouse died there and it had eaten tomatoes, and when it decomposed the plant grew or what, but that's pretty neat, and I'm pretty sure that's a tomato plant. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll look at some more pictures and do some more research, but I think it's a tomato plant, and I just went ahead and threw a little bit of fertilizer on it. And again, I don't know if this thing's going to grow or make fruit or not or anything, but I thought I'd just throw a little fertilizer on it for fun, just to see if I can help it along, because where it's growing right there in that corner is pretty much a lot of shade. I don't want to say full shade, but it's blocked by the fence in the house all morning, and then maybe at like noon to 2 o'clock when the sun's straight overhead, it might get a little bit of sun, and then as the sun moves over my house roof again, then blocks the sun again. So it hardly gets any sun, and I pretty much just pounded it to death right there, but it'll bounce back. So the last thing I'm going to do here is just kind of throw some water on all these cuttings that I took and show you guys a little update on that. I think the maple trees are due for water again. They're looking a lot better and a lot more promising since I got them in the shade and I let them dry out, and I've drilled some holes in the pots and got them dried out and kept them from flooding a little bit. But I do think that they're dry now, so it's time for a little bit more water. And their color has really darkened up, which is promising because that means the roots are taking in some nutrients and they turn darker, dark green there. So hopefully they will next year really bounce back strong and put on some new leaves and start growing next season. We'll see. But this project right here was just some cuttings of some neat little flowers I found that I like. And unfortunately, they're looking terrible right now. I'm just going to admit it. They were doing great for the first week or so, and every time I walked by, they were doing fine, so I didn't pay them any attention. But they are just planted in peat moss, and that peat moss is not taking on water. I didn't even drill holes in the bottom of those cups because I figured if I just poured water in it, then the cups would hold the water and the peat moss would be forced to just kind of absorb it like a sponge. But when I looked at them today, they were not doing good, and the peat moss was completely dry, and even though they were in a moisture dome container or whatever, the peat moss was not taking on water yet. So they got kind of dry, and some of the leaves curled up and died, and I just took them out today, and what I'm doing right now is just trimming off all the dead leaves and kind of trimming them back a little bit and keeping the green stuff. And I re-watered the peat moss, and I put holes in the cups, and I'm going to kind of watch them a little bit more closely. I think some of them are still alive, but I don't know. I mean, I might lose those cuttings. I'm not sure. I could also get some more and add to it, but we'll see. And I guess it was kind of my fault because they were in that moisture container, and I just forgot about them and let them go for a couple weeks. And I thought they were fine, but obviously they weren't, and the peat moss dried out. So we'll see. Maybe they'll be resilient and get some water on them, and they'll pull through. Who knows? Time will tell. These are the extra arborvitae cuttings that I just threw back in the woods, and instead of just throwing them on the ground and letting them die, I stuck the ones that looked like they were decent in this old pile of potting soil and fireplace ashes. And I didn't water them for like a couple weeks, and in my opinion, we've had a really dry spring here in my area. It's not even summer yet, and we've had several days in the 90s. And we just got one little rainstorm the other day, but for like 2 weeks it was dry and in the 90s and high 80s. And my grass in my front yard is already brown and crispy and starting to die back from heat, and I haven't watered it, and These got a little bit dry, so some of them might not make it, but it's no big deal. It was just kind of an experiment. And finally, completely last, here is just a look at my wood pile, and this wood is seasoning. That's Osage orange and cherry, and oddly enough, it's all kind of the same color. But that wood's drying and oxidizing or whatever it does, and it'll be ready to burn next year. Thanks for watching.